Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today I have a fun little thing that I wanted to share with you. The United States this last week or so has gone through a major crisis. The insurrection, the attack on the Capitol building has, let's say, tarnished our reputation, you could say. The last 4 years has been a very difficult time. Actually, the last 20 years has been a very difficult time for the United States with the Iraq War and then the economic crisis, the fallout from everything, and then now the Trump administration. So what I wanted to do is to share with you some information about how to get our power back as a nation. And this also applies on the individual level. So you can take this and apply the same information on the individual level. Okay. Every year, the National Park Service, or whoever it is, puts up the national Christmas tree on the National Mall, and everybody sings around, stands around and appreciates it, or plays the music and sings along, possibly, or whatever. I've never been there to celebrate that. I live on the opposite side of the country from that, and it's hard for us to travel that far. Okay, so what I'm proposing today is that we come up with a new monument, so to speak, that is going to be on the National Mall. Let's say the symbol of the national Christmas tree, which is a Christian idea, so to speak, and then I noticed they in Washington D.C. they also did the menorah for the Jewish faith. Okay, so let's say that different faiths are being introduced, being supported and respected at the holiday time. The holiday time is a really important time for everybody, for many people around the world, no matter what religion it is. It's the beginning of a new cycle. It's the beginning of a new idea, and our government, the U.S. government, the elections, new president. We have a new president being inaugurated on the 20th of January. So this time of the year, it's the beginning of a new cycle for everybody. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start talking about technology and about new cycles. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to introduce an invention, let's say a top secret, and it's not top secret, it's a top secret invention that our technology team is going to be working on, has been working on for a while. Okay, that is, and I did a mock-up. I'll share it with you in a few minutes. It's a silly little thing that I did in about 3 minutes this morning, more like a kindergartner cutting and gluing. But it's got enough information on it to give you, to pique your curiosity. Okay, so each time we have a cycle starting, let's say a new president, they each comes in with a new administration and a new series of ideas and policies and things like that. But is President Joe Biden, when he's inaugurated, going to have solutions? The Republicans now are angry with him for the Democrats for coming up with socialism and policies that are not constitutional as far as they're concerned and are going to destroy power. So let's consider how to rebuild our national power structure and how to do this. The same thing happens with people on an individual basis. Each of us makes choices. We come up with our New Year's resolutions, and over the next year we're supposed to lose 20 pounds, or we're supposed to get a new job, but let go of a place that we don't like, clean out the garage, or you see what I mean? Everybody has ideas about what the new cycle is supposed to bring, and then by the end, you're exhausted. So how can we make things better for ourselves and for our country to get our power back? First of all, where does true power come from? It comes from assuming responsibility. It doesn't come from supporting a president, for example, who is functioning for his own interests, possibly. So we'll go into Donald Trump in just a minute. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at the last 3 presidential cycles for a minute. And this is going to be, I'm going to share with you 3 of our inventions that work together to create one power source invention. And in the future, and I'll explain to you what we're going to do with that. But let's say that we are going to put this invention, install this invention on the National Mall to demonstrate, let's say, right in front of the White House, so that the president, every day he or she looks out the window, and there it is, it's demonstrating, reminding that president about where true power comes from and his or her responsibilities, and how to keep us maintain our power base. Okay. So power comes from assuming responsibility, but then what happens is, so let's dig into this. So where do we deal with that? So looking back over the last 3 presidents, so we have George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. So we're going to sort this out. My cat is hello, good morning. So let's sort this out this morning. Okay. So let's say that we have, over the last 3 presidents, we've had 3 cycles going around. Excuse me a minute. Come here. She wants my attention, so she keeps grabbing me and stabbing me in the leg with her claws. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's talk about these 3 cycles. My cat is important too. So this is not something that is outrageous. Just remember that my cat is here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let's talk about these 3 cycles. And let's say that the first cycle, George W. Bush, got us into trouble basically with the Iraq War. You might not even been aware of it. You might be young enough where you don't remember it. But you should really go back. In fact, the entire United States, the entire world is going to go back and revisit the Iraq War. So let's say that what he did, this represents the cycles. This ball represents the cycles. It's like the globe spinning. You know, as an aside, there was a little article saying that the Earth is spinning faster now, and they're going to have to do something about it's 1 second either faster or slower, faster than it was before. So 1 second off, they have to kind of change the clocks based on how fast the Earth turns. Okay, now back to this. So let's say that the first cycle was George W. Bush. And what he did was he created a sense of power games that were oppressive to the people. Power games are oppressive to the people. We'll go into the power games in a future video. Okay, but the first one set off a series of ripples when he invaded Iraq. So his first term in office, we're going to talk about his term, and then we're going to look at the power games. And what's really remarkable is he and Trump's power games were pretty much the same, and Obama's too. But Obama's were like the opposite idea of this. So let's say that you had George W. Bush, and then the then there was the flip idea of that, where the Democrats, let's say you have a husband and a wife who are angry with each other and they're getting a divorce, and the husband is oppressive, and then the wife takes it out on him by taking him to court, and then you have the husband coming back and being more assertive and more aggressive. Okay, so that's kind of what has happened over the last 3 terms of the presidents. Okay, first of all, intolerance. Let's say we had, this was let's say 2003 with the preemptive strike on Iraq and the idea of all these power games. So we're looking at these principles as it goes around the circle. It's addressing these principles around here. Okay, so as ripples happened, and first of all, there was oppression, and then there was people were losing their rights, and then there were covert and overt actions, and then victimization, and then a sense of lack, and then there was intolerance. So let's say that there were just, at that point in time, there was a series of problems that if the government had responded correctly and resolve the issues at the time, then they would have been able to bring a sense of balance back in. There was still a sense of balance, okay? But then what happened was the Republican Party or the Democratic Party got in and said, kind of like what they're doing now, is they're saying, we stand on the principles. So George Bush was playing power games. And then the Democrats got into power with Obama and said, we stand on principles, we are going to do this. And then they countered what had happened. Instead of resolving it during the time period, then it was like this flip-flop idea. Then when Obama got in, now I'm not blaming anybody for this. Everybody plays the games on the individual level. Like I said, this can happen in a family too. So let's say this invention that I'm going to share with you can be located on the National Mall, or it can be located on your mantelpiece above your fireplace, or in a sacred spot, like in a niche on the wall, or someplace else. So think about this on an individual basis and on a family basis and on the national basis. So then what happened was so we reached the ultimate conclusion of our country. They're talking about the end of democracy. Okay, so we're talking about the last cycle. So these 3 cycles with, first of all, then Obama was countering those ideas, and then by doing that, he created a sense of fear by standing on those principles. He created a sense of fear in the Republicans again, and that allowed, because let's say the Democrats weren't listening, they were just kind of pushing through their policies because they had the majority. We're talking about majority, and in the Congress. So now we have a Democratic Congress coming up, and everybody's up in arms. They're actually up in arms with an insurgency. So we're going to stop this insurgency now. Okay. Now then Trump got into office, and he played exactly the same power games. That the similarities between Trump and Bush are remarkable. I made a list of them once, and they're like, I found like 15, and I didn't follow politics that much in those time period, but like Bush and Trump both had pet names, they each had, Bush had little pet names for people, and so does Donald Trump. He calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas and things like that. Bush did the same thing. So Obama didn't. He was more polite as a president. Okay, less pushy, but still those principles are really frightening to those Republicans who are focused on power. So we've had this flip-flop idea. Okay, so now what's happening is this much more extreme. We have the Donald Trump almost pushing us to the brink of a nuclear war with North Korea. He's using maximum power, the oppression associated with like the Muslim bans and the religion, and standing up for Israel and doing things like where other of the presidents didn't change the capital or the embassy where the capital is from Tel Aviv. Trump shifted it to Jerusalem, riling up the Palestinians and then coming up with peace in the Middle East and policy by, it seemed like a really good idea, but there's a lot of potential for problems now, because when the truth comes out about what the deal was, Trump never talked about what the deal was. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to tell you that this whole idea, this invention right here, is the light source invention. And the principles that bring everything back to the straight and narrow are equality, liberty, freedom, compassion, abundance, capacity, and tolerance. So an example of that is if there's a war going on, that's this first thing here is the war, and oppression or intolerance leads to inequality. So let's say that we have a war going on, or oppression, intolerance has led to oppression in acts like the Muslim ban, that kind of thing. That's oppressive. That's like saying we're going to put you down. That's putting other people down. The Muslims we're going to ban those people. Okay, you see what I mean? There's a war. So the equality is the principle. The first requirement for conflict resolution is equality. So if our country wants a fair court system, there has to be equality under the law. Everybody has to be considered equal. So, they're going out, the Black Lives Matter and all these movements. Basically, there has to be equality under the law for us to have fair trials. Okay? You see, our country functions based on equality because we need to have peace in our country. Now, remember, our country, if this machine, this invention is parked on the National Mall, we have to have peace in our country to maintain our national defense. We have to be at peace, because we can't have, let's say Donald Trump is now doing this with what happens if he invites Russia in now as a way to stay in power? He's going to, and this is happening with the Russian interference in our elections, and so our country has to be strong, but we also have to have our country, but our world has to be strong too, because Donald Trump is also talking about aliens. And what happens if our world, let's say we have an alien race that has come in and has offered technology to one country to make it more powerful than the other countries. Wouldn't it be that it would be better for our entire world to be unified under an international government, so that we can stand up as one world and face this idea? Now, remember that idea, because that's going to play a part in this too. Okay, now in this invention, and I'm hiding it so you can't see, here it is. I'm going to give you a little idea about it now. Okay, so each of these ideas has to be at peace. Each of these ideas, for us to move forward into the future, we have to have a unified country. Let's say we have to have a unified family. We have to be unified in ourselves. We have to be standing on principles. And we have to have our power. Principles and power working together. We have to have a unified family. We have to have how about a unified company that we're working with and for? Okay, how about the people who are climbing the ladder of success over everybody's backs and making life difficult, and people are worried that they're going to get fired? I know somebody who just went through that, and everybody has gone through that in some way or another. because people grab for power. Okay, now what we have here is this invention idea is creating a sense of balance, and it's creating a sense of cycles and movement as we go around the circle with our administrations, our presidents, and in our own families we can be moving around too. Let's say with our New Year's on individual basis with New Year's resolutions, or we can go through cycles with children growing up. We have babies, we have living alone, getting married, having families, empty nest syndrome, being on Social Security and retirement. You see what I mean? We go through cycles all the time, and each of these cycles has to be in a state of balance. Now, I'm going to tell you that everybody, we're going to look at chakras for a minute. We have energy focuses in our body. We have 7 chakras in our body. Each of them is like a plexus of nerves that come, and we have the 7 inside our body, and then we have the 5 kingdoms outside the body. So the 5 kingdoms outside the body are the spiritual hierarchy, the aliens and the elemental spirits, the animals, and the plant kingdoms. Okay, so let's say that, not in that order. Okay, but let's say that I told you about my cat. So that my cat belongs to the animal kingdom, and I have a poinsettia sitting over there that's part of the plant kingdom, and I have what about allergies to plants? Are you at peace with plants so that the allergies don't bother you? Okay, how about dander, allergies to cats? Cat dander. Okay, so are you at peace with animals? Okay, we have dominion over animals, but are you at peace with animals so that you can live in the same environment with a cat and it's not going to give you allergies? Okay, now, so we have all these kingdoms. We have the elemental kingdoms, and that's something that, let's say the Irish, part of their culture is leprechauns, and they have silkies, and they have the divas, the oversouls of the animals. Animals don't have the same kind of souls that we have. They have a group purpose where they're all together and they're reborn into this same idea. Okay, so we can talk about that later. But then there's the aliens. We are aliens. We are part of the universe, and there's in the first book, Manual for Peace, Seth tells us there's 80 alien species on the planet. So now, as the United States government tells us about the UFOs and things like that and acknowledges them and comes out, well, Seth is telling us that 80 species, and our prayer circle, we've had, let's say, close encounters. In fact, I've had several close encounters with aliens by channeling them. At the prayer circle, I channeled the cat people, and I've had Greys, and I've had the people from Alcyone, and the people from, I can't remember, Altair maybe? I don't remember what planet they're from, what star system they're from. They look like little Samoans. They're little tiny guys that, like pygmies, black pygmies. And let's see, I've had hive aliens living in my backyard. They function on a different dimension most of the time, and when they travel interdimensionally. So what we're doing is we're looking at where they live. Now, so all these different kingdoms and all these chakras. So let's say the lowest chakra is our power chakra, and that has to do with, my cat is back. I'm at peace with my cat, except my cat is always equal to me and always wanting my attention. Come here. Come here. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so let's say we have all these different chakras inside our bodies, and we have the power structure. We learn our power games to compensate for lack of power, and that's we learn in our family. So to get our life, we have to be able to have a balance in our families. But families are not necessarily what you think they are. And because families break apart because of intolerance and things like that. So all of these ideas, we have our voice chakra. And let's say that on a national basis, okay, how many people have YouTube channels and social media? So we are creating a sense of balance or imbalance in our voice chakras. So is Donald Trump, if he gets banned from Twitter, going to have problems with his voice chakra? That's how this works. You have to have a sense of balance again. The intolerance creates a problem. The being banned is an intolerant idea, so he's compensating for this idea by holding rallies or maybe getting out and doing things or having a YouTube channel or starting his own media company where he's got his own news program. Okay, what he's compensating for is Donald Trump was accused of sexual assault by many women and has a problem with that idea. So we're going to go into the idea of the power games in the future. But what he wants is a combination. He wants a combination of voice and abundance. So doesn't that make sense that when you look at what people want, that it explains his behavior of why he's getting revenge? So we're going to talk about the Power series books that go into this in far greater depth. In fact, all the books go into all this in far greater depth. Now, I'm going to show you my completed invention. It's not complete. It's a kindergarten mock-up made out of an oatmeal box and a bulk peanut butter container. And I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, this is my mock-up for my invention. Let me turn this around this way. Okay, so let's say this is like 12 levels representing the 12 chakras that we have in our bodies and how we relate to different chakras. This top section up here is this light source invention. Okay, this is what the mock-up, we don't have to have an oatmeal box on the National Monument, but how about something that looks kind of like this? And what it is it's like 12 levels. Let's think of it as a 12-story building, a round building, a 12-story building. And what we have here is representing the 7 chakras and then the 5 kingdoms up here, the 12 chakras, and then the ones inside the body and the ones outside the body. Okay, on the bottom chakra, the bottom level is like a honeycomb with 144 spaces in it, like hexes. Okay, and it looks like the flower of life pattern. I should put that on here. That's going to fit under here. So let's say this whole bottom level is like that. So now what we have is this is rotating around here like this. It's like this globe up here rotating around here. Now the bottom chakra is, like I said, our power. This is our family. So if this is our national power monument, okay, this has to do with our national level. Okay, let's say that all of the families, our nation is here. Okay, this is our nation, our family nation. Okay, I'm from the United States. My nation is here on the national level. This is my family on the family level. And this is my chakra, my power chakra in my physical body. Okay, depending on what level you are. Then it's like a disc, and I'll go into that later and how that works. But let's say that if this is a 12-story building, and this represents me and my family lives on this level. My adversaries live on this level. This represents the solar plexus idea. So let's say all my adversaries live on that level. I have to create a sense of balance with my adversaries for me to be able to create the life I want. This is the flower of life level. So this is the level that has to do with the heart. Okay? This is the reproductive organs, and that has to do with the power games we play as a nation. This is the adversaries, and this is, let's say that on a national level, these would be Iran, North Korea, Somalia, Libya, the people who are out to get us, so to speak. But I'm not saying that they're out to get us. I'm saying they're living here on our national chakra, on our adversary chakra. Okay. Now, what we have to do is create a sense of balance, because all of these waves keep going out. When we threaten North Korea with a nuclear war, or we do a trade war against China, there's a backlash now, and that had to do with, let's say, the pandemic. The backlash was the pandemic. The snakes idea, and I've talked about that before. Then there's all these other chakras related to, like, the throat chakra, the inner eye, and the crown chakra. Okay, this is our seventh dimensional chakra. Okay, so now what we have right here is our relationship. I'm going to leap between the family one, our national level one. This is sitting on the mall, remember, in front of the White House. So the White House and Congress, let's say one way is Congress and the other way it's the White House, and they have maybe halfway between the two. So when they're working with each other, they're coming up with legislation that is balanced and standing on these principles, these 7 principles. And then the president has to execute the laws and deal with national security and things like that based on these principles. Is he going to, like Donald Trump, start a trade war with China? And the ultimate conclusion of that is people think of us as being so as we're destroying their economy, they're so angry with us that they're coming up with they're thinking of us as snakes, and they're riling everything up to create a pandemic. And then it's going all over the place. Okay, see what I mean? We have to create a sense of balance in our country to stop the pandemic. Okay, so now the whole idea is this top level, and that is universal law. The top level is God, the creator of us all, and this is the universe. This is how we connect to the universe, our universal chakra, the one where we connect, and then that allows us to have relationships with aliens, so to speak, because every atom in the universe is subject to universal law. If we meet an alien, the one thing we have in common with aliens is, are you standing on the principles of universal law? Now, I'm going to tell you something here. In our past, when the white people were moving across with manifest destiny into the West, and they were encountering Native American tribes and giving them, some of them were our friends, and they were giving them guns. Now, on a parallel basis, like I said, about what if the aliens are coming in and giving one country technology? And that happened because in the past, and I'm going to go in this in a little bit, the aliens came and visited us, like there's examples of that, maybe the Nazca lines and things like that. How did they do that? They had these big ideas of connections with the universe. Okay? Now, what would happen if they came, Atlantis was based on, had technology that was based on crystals. that was given to the people, the Atlanteans, and they used the crystal, and what caused Atlantis to go down was they beamed the like a laser through the earth to stop Lemuria on the other side of the planet, and they ripped the planet apart, and the two continents went down. Our spiritual connections will explain that more. But what happened was there was so much animosity. That was the end of the cycle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness in Atlantis. Okay, I have memories of that. Let's say racial memories of being in Atlantis. I had past lives there, and I was one of the team that sent I was one of the people who sent a team of people to black robes and white robes to England to create Stonehenge. So I remember that, and I remember also a life there where I was killed by doing that. So now what we have right now is that collapsed our power base. Are we destroying life? If this is the end of democracy, our democracy, what happens with our country when it devolves into chaos, which is what happened in England after Stonehenge was collapsed? Now, we have another idea coming up here. So all these inventions and projects and everything are going to pull all this together. But right now, let's get back to this idea. So we have our power games that we play as a nation, and let's say, okay, let's look at this a little bit more, and whether or not revenge. Okay, so let's say we have two ideas here, and my next video, I'm going to talk about these ideas and the power games that played. I'm going to show you the power source and the power games that are played related to revenge, how it works and why it doesn't work, and that all relates to this chakra right down here. So if we create a sense of imbalance by not standing on these principles, and we're attacking through threatening other countries, we're intolerant with their people, and we're going to build the big wall with Mexico, why can't we be at peace with Mexico and have, that, wasn't that what the idea of NAFTA was, is coming up with the trade agreements and things like that? We're going to put walls up, but we're going to trade with them, but we don't want the people in, but we, what kind of balance is that? Okay, now, the whole thing is, I'm going to talk about this slide. So, now, on this, each of these levels is like a disc. Think of a CD. Okay, the CD has spirals on it. Okay, these are relationships. So, but now on this 12th floor, this first floor, we have all of these family type relationships. Our nation is this. We are a family nation. Okay, now, are we willing to stand on these principles to create a sense of abundance? Okay, now I'm going to tell you about the next idea, the third invention that goes along with this, and that is the intuitive computer. This is what controls this. This is how you build your power with this. Okay? You ask the first question. Okay, there's a chart that goes along with it, and this is in one of the packets for the getting out of the abyss classes that we have. So the first question is, this is based on the idea we always have three choices: up, down, or straight ahead. Okay? And I've talked about the three choices before: up, down, or straight ahead, heaven, hell, or purgatory. Okay? So now that gives you an idea. Are we going to live in hell? Are we going to get revenge? The ninth wall of hell is revenge. Okay, are we going to, the pentagon is shaped like, okay, so let's put the pentagon here, down on this this level right here, the family level. So is that president going to get revenge on other countries? That's what happened with the Iraq War. It was an act of revenge that created these sense of ripples that have gone out. So let's say that on this level we have a choice. Are we going to stand on the principles, the 7 principles that create a sense of balance, or are we going to get revenge and on other countries and create a sense of imbalance? Okay, so let's say our president is in the White House and we have Congress at the Capitol building, and then that direction is the Pentagon. Okay, so now maybe we should put this right between the 3 places. Maybe that would be a good place to locate it. Okay, maybe not on the mall, but maybe, the Pentagon isn't that far away from there. So now what we have here is a sense of, are we going to stand on these principles? The principles of universal law. Okay, so the first question here is up, down, or straight ahead. You have 3 choices. Okay, the first question is, okay, so this is like one of those things where you do it and then you ask a question, then depending on the question you get to a different place. Okay, we all know that. Okay, the first one is, are you willing to stand on the principles of universal law and apply them in your own life? The principles of universal law. These are the principles of universal law. Okay, I wrote a letter to the Supreme Court introducing universal law into our legal system. Okay, so let's put the Supreme Court in there too and say, is the Supreme Court going to stand on this idea of universal law? We have 3 levels of our legal system. We have the universal law, we have constitutional law, and then we have federal law. Okay, so now what we have here is, are we going to stand on that? If Donald Trump is breaking the law, is he going to run to the Supreme Court, use his abuse of power, gets accused of abuse of his power? Is he going to run to the Supreme Court and his three Trump justices, that in his own thinking, the 3 Trump justices are going to say, Donald Trump, you're the king of the United States. We're going to leave you in power forever and ever. You see what I mean? You're the king. Okay? Are they going to do that? Is this the point in our nation's power structure that we're going to be functioning based on universal law? My cat just stabbed me again. I think there's imbalance here in the legal, on my animal chakra, which is up in the top 5. Okay, so you're starting to get a picture now of where we are as a nation and how we can start to get our power back based on these ideas. This is the top one, and it spins around based on cycles. And let's say the president is here. The family level too. On an individual basis, what happens if you have 5 people in the family and one of them is a drug addict or a criminal and basically in prison, and the people around, the neighbors, are wondering, when is your son going to get out of prison? You know, it's kind of like creating a lot of discord, in the neighborhood, or a sex offender or whatever. See what I mean? All of these ideas are creating how to create a sense of how to get out of the abyss. And that these are part of the getting out of the abyss classes that we have. So now, when you're standing on the principles and you get slammed because you come up with an idea that benefits everyone, and like Barack Obama and the Plan for World Peace, when it was introduced in June of 2011, when Ahmadinejad wrote a letter to Obama in support of the plan, Okay, now, that's something that we'll let Obama tell us about that. Okay, when he's ready, he'll tell us about that. But do the Republicans have to be worried about that? Are we going to unify our country based on this idea of getting our power back? Does power come from having 74 million supporters who are ready to be up in arms, and they're going to come and they're going to take you and make you president? Oh, that's not American. No, that's not America. If we do something like that, the rest of the world is going to look at us and they're going to say, we don't want anything to do with you. If Twitter doesn't want anything to do with Trump, what about the rest of the world? How are we going to get our power back? We have to stand on these 7 principles. And the Supreme Court, I wrote my letter to the Supreme Court introducing that. It's on the website, the organization website. So you can read the letter, how it's introduced resolves a misunderstanding in our legal system. So let's say we pledge allegiance to the flag, but we are one nation. Under God, we are indivisible. Okay, under God, we are indivisible. Are you willing to stand on the principles of universal law? Can you treat everybody fairly and equally to avoid a war? Do we have to go to war? Do we have to have the Pentagon telling us we have to go to war? Okay, or are we standing on these principles of universal law? These apply to aliens. If we want to go out into space, with this, the Space Force, are we going to travel interdimensionally like the aliens do and travel around? And hey, this is a power source. I'll tell you what, this can be considered. Let's say that if we are going to create a power source, the scientists are trying to come up with a power source. So what would happen if we put this into our power, into a spaceship, and use this to power the spaceship? Okay, so every time you make a win-win agreement, that's what this is about. You build trust and set the stage for future agreements. Okay, so every time you make a choice where you come together and you create a win-win agreement, a burst of power goes off, and it gets stored down in this area down here. So let's say this is a relationship with here. So there's these parts here all fit together. This is where the energy that goes off is stored, right in this area. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. I'm going to give you one final bit of information here that's going to kind of knock your socks off, and you're going to hate me probably for the rest of eternity for saying this. But our world, our Earth, is a closed ecosystem, and our Earth has 7 chakras too. It actually has a lot more than that, but I'll get into that later when we talk about the prime universe. But the oceans, this is like a honeycomb that's filled with ocean water, seawater. It stores energy. So now this is the part where you're going to hate my guts. But remember, we have to create a sense of balance here. Okay, there is our technology team we're going to bring together the Ocean Symposium to protect the oceans, because this whole area down here is going to be filled with seawater. And there's undersea mining now that is, so let's say the oceans are like a battery that store the energy from the sun. As it's coming in, all the win-win agreements that have occurred have stored energy in the oceans, and the energy from the sun, the light source invention, okay, is storing energy in the oceans. When you remove electrolytes from a battery, like a battery, this is like a battery, a saltwater battery. If you remove the electrolytes from it and you keep adding energy into it, it gets hot. So part of the problem with global warming is that a major problem with global warming is removing the electrolytes from the oceans. Those minerals that are there are necessary to keep that battery in a state of balance too. We cannot extract minerals, the rare earth minerals from the oceans. As much as we need the minerals, we need to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to tell you something here. So let's say that we have a deposit of minerals someplace, like they're coming out of the vents down in the bottom of the ocean, the volcanic events, but there's volcanoes all over. In fact, I live in a place where there's an extinct volcano just a few miles that way. It's Vulcan Peak. It's right over there. It's maybe 20 miles from here. I don't know exactly, because when I go there, the road is convoluted. Okay, as the bird flies, it might be 20 miles that way. Okay, so all of these deposits of minerals that are in the ground, when the water runs over them, puts them in the oceans and things like that. So as it's there, if we remove all of those mineral deposits, because we want cell phones, we want the 5G technology, we want all the technology that's based on this idea of rare earth minerals, we can't do that anymore. It's creating a sense of imbalance now. We have to maintain our oceans in a pristine condition. We cannot create. This has to be in a state of balance too. So I was recently given a cell phone and I refused to use it. I'm calling for a ban on cell phones. And I mean, how many people need cell phones? How many are relying on cell phones now? So I know you're going to hate my guts when I tell you that I'm calling for a ban on cell phones. But we have to have a sense of balance in the world for us to get our power back. This is going to be a national monument, so to speak, in every country. But there's also going to be a big one in the oceans, and it might be on an island someplace, and it's going to be a global one that helps us to get off the ground by making these win-win agreements. If alien spaceships function this way, how about if we build one that gets us to the stars? Okay? How about if we create a friend of mine is interested in the space elevator idea, and he says, well, let's just do nanotubes and stick it out there, and as the Earth goes around, it'll keep it up there. And I'm going, it's gravity. I'm not sure that if you take something like this, it'll stand up. But if you take a wire and try to hold it up, it doesn't stick. You can't make it stand up. So it has to be, the space elevator is going to be like this. And as we move up and out, we can move large objects up by making these energy shifts, by making win-win agreements with the energy that's stored. We can use that to power our homes. We can apply this information to help us get out of our personal abyss. We can apply this on a national basis to get out of our national abyss. We can apply this on a global basis to get out of our global abyss. And then we can apply the same idea to take us to the stars. Because this is the power that comes from making win-win agreements. It's as simple as that. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the power games in the Power Series books, and I'll talk about that later. I don't want to talk about that now. This has been going on long enough. So I thought that you might be interested in this. This is a center core that comes up based on life partnerships. We have life partnerships with Lady Gaia and I Am That I Am, our creator parents who live on the upper floors. We have life partnerships with the divas for the animals and the plants. My plant elemental is a wild rose. So I have, the totem idea. I have a totem. My totem is a horse. My totem is a wild rose, and you'll see that on one of my books called Beauty Grows in the Darkness. Okay? How about how everything, everybody's talking about the light, and there's two different kinds of light. There's the light from the sun, but there's also spiritual light, and we'll talk about that later too. Okay, so I wanted to share with you this because this is so much fun. This is world peace, basically from the technology perspective. Okay, so now we're going to create, this is the motivation for world peace, making win-win agreements rather than waging war to get control of natural resources or strategic locations and causing intolerance and ripples of effects from this idea. So thank you for listening to this and sharing it with other people. I'd like you to like, share, and subscribe. And if you think this is fun, join the debate and share this with other people, because I'm not the only person here who needs to know about how to create a sense of balance in the world. I'm going to share this with my other people too today. So I do the same thing, like, share, and subscribe to my own post. Excuse me. Have a good day.